how to rise to the occasion. He started this company. He knew people needed him to be passionate, charismatic. This is going to work. This is this never before developed software. It's going to change people's lives. He got people excited about it. Venture capitalists, employees, investors, board members, okay, customers, and he built this company. All right, so now I've been coaching him for like 3 years. His company has about 100 employees. All right, this same passionate, charismatic guy recognized that that's not what's most needed now. Now he needs to be more systematic. You know, he needs to develop processes. He needs to find people that are professional managers to help run this company. And he needs to make sure there's performance evaluation measures in place. So he started to become this more kind of like quieter, kind of like assessing kind of person. Right? And then what happened? His company became second in market share about another 4 years later. You know, hundreds of millions in revenues. Right? What happened next? He realized like his main job was to build a second line of leaders, was to cultivate other leaders. You know, Peter Drucker once said, a leader is someone who has followers. I wouldn't agree on that completely. I would say a leader is someone who empowers other leaders. Someone who looks for followers is someone who wants to be big so others can be small. You know, someone who wants to empower other leaders lets others be big, knowing they'll be even bigger. You know, by cultivating other people that are going to feel like leaders in their own right and know that, like, that's not, you're becoming a leader is not against me. It's actually for me. It's going to be within that collective vision, like that organism we talked about. You know, and so it's in my interest for you to develop and grow the way you want to grow. And, you know, and then you're going to be loyal to me and to this company. And you're not going to leave. That's what the best leaders do. So this man, after about 8 years, he became this, you know, basically he shifted toward being more of like a relaxed kind of life coach. You know, like more like me actually. Like this is like kind of empowering his empowering his employees, building other leaders, you know, more empathy toward people and trying to understand their needs. And, you know, that was his main job, was to build. He had a team of about 5 other leaders that he was building. And he knew that's what the success of his company depended on. So our leadership is not, it's not just about learning some quality. It's about learning them, but then how do they all weave together? And when do we switch from one to the other? You know? So let's go forward a little bit. Okay, the last thing I'm going to say about listening, and then we're going to move on, is here's a great listening strategy, right? Because I know you guys don't want to just hear me talk about empathy and qualities. You want to give me some concrete strategies I can take home, right? All right, here's one. So when you're in a conversation with someone, literally, if you want to listen well to someone, like draw a movie screen around their face. Serious. Like imagine that you're watching a movie. Because think about it. You can go to a movie and you can listen to people you've never met talk for 2 hours. No problem. But then you come home and you can't, or you come home or into the office and you can't listen to the people you care about for 5 minutes. So if you want to listen more, imagine you're watching a movie. Just put a screen around their face and like let their character develop. Watch the plot unfold. And even ask questions to bring out the plot, bring out the character. You know, so it's like listening is primarily passive because you're letting the other person own it more, letting them be more active, but it's secondarily active. It's asking the right questions to bring out more about who that person is, what they want, what do they need, what are their motivations. All right, so okay, on trust, I'm just going to say a couple things because I want to move into leading in a tough economy, which is the principle is called under-promise and over-deliver, not the opposite. Right? If you do the opposite, if you say you're going to, and a lot of people like to sort of impress you with all the things they're going to do, but if you say you're going to do lots of things and then you don't deliver, that's where you lose trust. Like think about it this way, all you have is your word. Right? If your word means something, people value it. If it doesn't mean much, they don't value it. So here's an organizational structure chart that I think this was developed by a woman, and women tend to relate to it more than men, but I think both do relate to it a lot. And it was designed by Frances Hesselbein, 25-year CEO of the Girl Scouts. And the idea here is that the CEO or the executive director is in the middle, and the people you trust the most are closest to you. So you have these circles around you with your, you have your leadership team members around you, and they're not the people that necessarily have the biggest titles in your company, but they're the people that have your back. You know who I'm talking about. They're the people who are indispensable because you can count on them. And why? Because they deliver what they say they're going to do. They commit to something and then they deliver on it. You can count on them. And then they in turn have people that are further out that they know they can count on. And this is the real, not, you guys were so used to the sort of very male-oriented, like, organizational structure chart where you got these blocks like the CEO and then the vice presidents and then the operations managers, and but this is the real one. It's all based on trust. These are and the idea is that, and you can share this with your team members. If you want to get closer to the CEO, then you got to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on. The more you deliver what you promise, the more influence you wield in a company, and the closer you get to the center. That's the model. Okay, so we're going to end on the qualities of a leader with this definition of leadership. If I can just find my notes. Okay. So this is the definition. It is the capacity to build relationships toward a common purpose. My father, when he heard this presentation once about passion, empathy, and trust, he said, "Aren't those the three most important qualities just to make a relationship work?" And I was like, "Yeah, they are." And I came up with this, and then realized that it's really what we're talking about leadership. If it's about building relationships, it's the same thing we use at home as we use with a team in the office. It's really trying to build relationships toward a common purpose. Now, we talked about trust. One thing about trust is that, of course, deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on, but there are times where you can't. Like you tell a customer you're going to have this, you're going to have something for them on Monday, and you just can't get it done in time because you've got a big family gathering over the weekend and you don't want to work all weekend on it. And you say, if just Monday comes and Monday goes and you don't get it to them, then you lose trust. But if you call them on Friday and say, "Hey, you know what? I got this huge family gathering going on. I think I'm going to need another day. Can I get this to you on Tuesday?" You're fine. You're managing expectations. Same thing. Think about it with your team members. When they tell you, you may give somebody a report to get to you, and they don't. It's supposed to it's due Wednesday. Wednesday comes, Wednesday goes, and you don't get it. You lose trust in them. But if they come to you on Monday and say, "Hey, can I get this to you on Friday? Because I'm really working hard on it, but I want to do a good job, and I feel like there's a few more things I need to research." Okay, sure, get it to me on Friday. The relationship is managed. See, what I believe is that we have trust accounts with people. So every person you have a trust account with them. When you deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on, when you deliver what you commit, you build the trust account. It's like you deposit a coin into it. When you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, you lose currency in the trust account. In fact, I would say trust is the currency of leadership. If you want, think about leadership like a highway, and you have these tolls. You have some toll roads here in Romania, I think, right? So you've got where you have to stop and pay. Do you guys have some of those? We haven't been on one yet, Peter. I'm waiting for that. But we drive around, but I haven't paid a toll yet. But at any rate, it's like that. It's like you need these coins to be able to pass and continue on the road of leadership. And if you don't have those coins, you can't go any further. So with any person, when you think about what is success in life, I think success is like who are the people that are going to stand by you when you need them? Those are the people you've built trust accounts with because you deliver what you say you're going to deliver on. And we lose trust in a moment. We can build for 30 years, lose it in a moment. It's like Winston Churchill said, a small leak can sink a great ship. You know, one woman I coached, her husband cheated on her after 30 years with 3 kids. Okay, this guy, for like, you know, an hour of sex, and probably wasn't that long, like, he basically blew his whole marriage, and she wouldn't go back with him. And, you know, he spent years trying to get her back, his children wouldn't talk to him. All that for such a, you know, for an hour one afternoon. You know, and so that's what happens is that we make commitments to people, and they take us at our word. And remember, people most look to leaders for security. Remember the ship example. They want to feel secure in their cabins. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to be this kind of person with you. I make these commitments, and then Tibby, you say, well, okay, so I can count on Tony for this, and I'm going to start building my life around this. I'm going to start building my career around this. And then I do something that, you know, one day that shows you that you couldn't believe what I told you you could believe. And then you're not going to, you know, it's like that one act. Many times people can't trust us again. So it's really, you know, leadership is really about trying to be mindful of what we give our word to. And don't commit to something unless you really plan to deliver on it. You know, and manage expectations if you can't deliver, because that happens sometimes. So before we go into leading in a tough economy, what I want to do is to get you guys up and doing something. Okay, what I'd like to do, we've talked about some leadership qualities here, and not just these, but the ones in the beginning, and you guys are thinking about a lot of other leadership qualities. What I'd like you to do is to break into groups of 10 or 15, just people around you, and I want you to talk about what do you feel is the most important quality of a leader. Right? And what I want you to do is to talk about that, and then I want you each, based on that quality, I want you each to write down 1 or 2 strategies you can take back to your office for how you can integrate that quality into the way you're leading in your office, in your company. All right, so again, let's break into groups of 10 or 15 people. Let's have a discussion about leadership quality that you feel is important, and then start to develop 1 or 2 strategies each about how you can use that quality, integrate that quality into the way you're leading. And you know, you could do that as a group, and so just like everyone try to come up with just 1 or 2 strategies anyone could use to integrate that quality into your company. Everyone understand? Okay? All right, so you're going to have about 7 or 8 minutes for this, so let's get started. Thanks.
Then for the interview.
Okay, let's all come back together, please. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. You know, we've actually just found out that we were hoping we could go till 1:30, but there's another client that has the room at 1, so we have to wrap up quickly. So let's all come back together. And Peter has an announcement.
Pentru cei care doriți să aveți semnătura lui Tony pe cartea pe care ați primit-o, puteți să obțineți semnătura lui în hall-ul hotelului. Din păcate, datorită unei suprapuneri de eveniment, nu putem să mergem prea mult cu evenimentul și la ora 1 trebuie să eliberăm sala, pentru care ne cerem scuze dinainte.
Thank you. Okay, so let's just hear from 1 or 2 groups. Like, what quality did you come up with, and what strategies are you going to put in place? This gentleman?
We have discussed our team here that first impression was to try to listen twice than you speak. That's one very important point. It was my point, because I'm speaking more than listening. So it is usually very good for managers to listen, not only speak and don't hear the others from the team. The other point was to try to give leaderships to other leaderships to grow up at your company, not to delegate your points, your suggestion, not to be done only by yourself, to delegate your duties. And one important point which we agreed together that when you go back to your company to ask your people, how do you feel at your business? That was an interesting point. At every meeting and at every business meeting, to ask your team how do they feel about their job, how do they feel about their business, how do they feel about what they have done of such thing, such duty which they have done. Not only that they have done it or they have executed. Another thing was to promise what you can do, not to promise more than your capacity. So you always try to promise what you can do as a real point, not with big promises without resolution. And to give more than your people expect from you. That's all the points what we have discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, so we're actually gonna, because we're short on time, we're gonna move forward. Excellent. So I'm sure each one of your groups, raise your hand if you felt this was useful and you had a good conversation with your group. Okay, excellent. And you guys remember that you're your greatest resource for each other. So definitely after we finish, and keep networking, meeting each other, and there's leaders need other leaders to bounce ideas off of, and leadership it's not a destination, it's a journey. So you have to keep in the game. So I'm going to talk briefly about well, I already have been talking about leading in a tough economy, but I'm going to share like 2 more principles around leading in a tough economy that I'm often on national and international television, radio talking about this. I'm going to share 2 of that I think are the most important principles, and then 2 or 3, and then we're gonna have questions within about 10 minutes. Okay, so one is, this isn't really a principle, but it's just how you look at success, and this is very important because the way we think and feel is going to affect our leadership. So the idea is that success doesn't come from aiming at success. It comes from doing what you're passionate about to the best of your ability. So when you start saying, well, the economy is down and we have 20% less revenues, and you really start feeling badly about yourself from that, well, what you're doing is you're focusing on what you receive. All right? And here's the news. You have 0% control over what you receive in life, whether it's customers or revenues or promotion or status or receiving kind words from other people or affection or knowing that your husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend wants to be with you or loves you, or your parent wants to spend time with you, or your child, your friend. You don't control any of that. Right? You have 100% control over, however, you have 100% control over what you give. This is the key to succeeding in a tough economic climate. Focus on how you can contribute. In other words, whether the economy is good or it's bad, keep your focus on your customers. Keep your focus on your team members. That's what you control. The better, the more. In fact, a tough economy can be a blessing because you can spend more time focused on the customers that you have and build loyalty for the future. Build loyalty for a better economy. You could find, for example, a training company that I coached their CEO, and they had a situation where their program cost a lot of money. It was like $15,000, and in a great economy, they got lots of clients, but in a tough economy, they got very few clients. And so what did I encourage him to do? Break that program into smaller parts that were less expensive, because that's what his customers could afford. An art gallery owner, she had all these masterpieces in her gallery, and no one could afford them in a tough economy. So I encouraged her. I said, well, the question here is not about how much money you're going to make or whatever, but what are the needs of your clients? What are the needs of your customers? Well, they still like art, but they don't have as much money. Okay, well, how can you sell them art at a price they can afford? So she started reaching out to local artists. They started doing happy hours, and these artists brought in their friends, and her gallery, they hadn't sold anything in months, and now they were selling lots of pictures from local artists that charged less money. In fact, she started to enjoy her job a lot more. You know, so there's all these benefits we don't see that come from adversity, come from like initially what we think is, oh, why is this happening? It turns out to be there's a lot of blessings in it. So to think about this, the example I would use is, how many of you like to swim? Swimmers? Wow. By the way, you guys are very athletic people. I notice in Romania, there's like, whenever we do these examples, it's like, oh, people want to, you know, like there's so many examples of we did this conference yesterday with the Cluj Community Foundation for NGOs, and all the examples of fundraisers were like a marathon, a triathlon, walkathon. You know, it was like, in the U.S. it's not as active. You know, like you don't hear that as much. Like here, there's a real active athletic culture. You know, it's great. So at any rate, so imagine that you're swimming. Okay, so imagine that here's a swimmer.